this is Taylor Hogue with response video number 6. The two pieces I have selected to review this week are the pilot episodes of Father Brown and Hilda, the Netflix original series. Hilda is about a young girl blue-haired girl living in an enchanted forest alongside her mother and pet deer fox. Now, she and her mother, in the beginning exposition, have been receiving eviction notices from a group of people known as the Hidden People. Now, Hilda writes them a letter asking them why they are so mean, but this sadly only causes them to retaliate and make good on their deal, and make good on their threats in the rising action. Anyways, after chasing them out of the house, her mother states that if this continues on, they'll have to move. Hilda, not wanting to leave her home, asks for time, and her mother grants it to her to fix the situation. She writes another letter asking them if they could work something out, and she is responded to by a young elf named Alfred. Turned out the Hidden People were actually just invisible elves. He helps her fill out the paperwork that would allow her to see his world, and she goes with him to meet the mayor to try to talk him out of making her leave her home. He's not willing to help, and furthermore says even if he couldn't. He wanted to, he couldn't because it was out of his hands and could only be in the Prime Minister's hands. So Hilda decides to go and meet with him along with Alfred. Anyways, when she's close to there, she almost gets attacked by the royal guard of the hidden elf people, but is rescued at the last moment by her pet deer fox, who terrorized the entire army, as they were made up of mostly rabbits. She meets the Prime Minister, and he himself reveals that he too is unable to solve the problem, as the king has sworn her and her entire family enemies for years, and that he can do nothing to stop the eviction, stop her and her mother from being forced to move out. Disheartened, Hilda decides to leave after thanking Alfred, but he decides to break protocol and assist Hilda in going to meet the Prime Minister, leaving a very open ending after the climax of meeting the Prime Minister. Anyways, as for and not much of a resolution for that one, but it's supposed to be a two-parter episode, I think. As for Father Brown, the story is about a priest named Father Brown. And at the beginning of the story, during a picnic, it is revealed that the vicar who runs a church in the same village his parish as his younger brother has been blackmailing the blacksmith's wife to commit adultery with him, so long either that or he'll kill her husband. She's been going along with it until her husband found out and confronted him about it. Shortly thereafter, he is found murdered. This is where the rising action takes place. It continues on as Father Brown begins to question the three suspects: Elizabeth herself, who admitted to the murder even though she was innocent in order to protect her husband, which she reveals; Susie, his housemaid, who later is revealed not to have killed him, but to have been attempting to blackmail him to feed her poor family. And finally, a male lover of the deceased is questioned as well, but he reveals he had no part in it. Father Brown eventually finds out, after looking at the clock, who was actually responsible for it. This is the climax when he finally confronts the true killer. The vicar himself has killed his own brother. He tells Father Brown of what he did and tries to use God as a scapegoat, which Father Brown will not allow him to do so, and tells him he is responsible for his own actions, not God. He almost throws himself off a building, but Father Brown convinces him to do otherwise, and instead, as it is revealed, he has an infatuation for Elizabeth. During the falling action, he decides to turn himself in, and he is shown climbing into the car. Later on, it is revealed that Elizabeth and her husband are now closer than ever, along with the ties of everyone in the town. And that's all the time I have. Thank you.